Please hear me now. Please tell me you can hear me now. It's crazy. It says you can hear me. All right, please say something in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see if we can fix it. Okay, you guys should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me now? This is ridiculous. I'm just gonna Erica, could you see I see you're here in the correct I started with OBS and my audio wasn't working, so I exited out and I'm doing it a different way, but you guys can hear me now. Okay, perfect. We're just gonna jump into it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry for the mishap. Um, I don't know what was happening. I thought I had everything ready to go, but apparently not. So we're here today to continue the Holtzclaw investigation that we were doing a week ago today. So a lot has happened since then. Um, it's unusual that I have a part 1 and a part 2 that's not, like, numerically back to back, but we did interview Shane in between now and then. So, thank you very much, Shane, North Georgia Audit, for coming on my show. I actually have him scheduled to come back to cover a completely separate case on the 12th of May. So, look forward to that. I think Shane and I got along very well, and he's actually into true crime as well. So, um, we're gonna have him back on. How about my voice? It sounds way better than it did Friday night, right? I think so. I think I think it's a win. So, we are going to get into it. Since I did not have my stream set up this way, I did not have Restream set up, so I'm gonna have to add a source so you guys can see the doggos who are here. Oh, that's not the correct one. Let me fix that. Let's video settings, yes, please. We're off to a great start today, huh? There they are, sleepy as usual. I wanna say hello to everyone who's joining us here today. I see a bunch of you here. Thanks for coming, I appreciate it. Quest Fanning, always good to have you, sir. Erica, uh, it's always a pleasure to have you here with your wrench lopping heads if people got out of line. That's your job. You and number 2, that's your job. Christo, Dub, Jamie, always a pleasure. Let's get into it. So, Daniel Holtzclaw, if you recall, we went over the case of Daniel Holtzclaw, like the case against him last week, and it was a lot. It was a lot, guys. There was a lot going on. The man seemed very guilty, and I'll have to tell you, when I first decided to cover this case, I thought he was guilty as heck. So, I'm like, "Oh, good. I have a bad cop. We're gonna cover this case of this horrible cop who did awful things to these women in his on his patrol beat," right? And then I started looking into it, and I looked at each case, each accusation against him individually, and when you dig down into it, it's not at all what it seems. As you guys know, what I like to do on this channel is dig into the misinformation of mainstream media and unearth the truth. That's been my tagline since I started, and that's what we're doing with this one, and I didn't even think it was gonna be one of those cases, but it is. So, if you guys decide that you would like to, donate or do a super chat or a Rumble rant or anything like that while we're live, these 2 right here, as well as we still have Leia here. There she is. Leia. She's asleep. Leia and Luke are still here. They go home tonight. So this is the last chance if you want to give a milk bone to Leia. Yeah, she looks like Samuel L. Jackson. But she's still here, at least for the time being. And Luke is down here on the floor taking a little nap. Remember, you also get your name into the drawing we do a drawing. I ask questions in the chat. Also, if you support the show in any way, you get your name in the drawing. And I guess we're just going to jump into it. Oh, and don't forget the Christ is King merchandise. I have it on. There it is. I have it on tonight. So if you purchase one of these shirts from charities.com, 100% of the profits go to onemorechild.org. That's 100% of the profits. Stephen Ignoramus and Let's Be Frank and I collaborated on this, and we did want to give back to a good cause. And this charity helps vulnerable children and families. And that's something that appealed to all of us, even though all three of us have very different genres in the YouTube sphere. Frank covers politics. I cover crime stuff. Stephen is more covers culture stuff. But when we got together, we decided that onemorechild.org is a great representation of all three of our channels because they provide Christ-based services to vulnerable children and families. And those vulnerable children include trafficked children, which really struck me as something that we needed to pay attention to. I see Erica has already done a super chat. Thank you. We'll give the doggos one of these little mini milk bones to start. And then we'll get into it. There's 4 of them here today, so I got to get 4 of these out. Like these milk bones are the size for Luke, these little ones, but the other dogs are like, what is this? All right, come here, Luke. You're first. There he is. There's Luke. There's one for Luke. All right, hop down. Thank you very much, Erica. Shake, 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 shake. There you go. High five. High five. She's not paying attention today. Oh, and Quested too. We will definitely we'll get all these beginning super chats out of the way, and then we'll take a break about halfway through, and I'll address the rest of them. But I'm not going to interrupt the story to do that. Here you go, Luke. Luke, should we see if they can catch today? They never can. Oh, Ava did. Xena? Xena did not. Xena, try again. Oh, she got it. Okay. Thank you. Dub, you guys are never going to let me start the show. Thank you so much, Dub. I appreciate you as well. We're going to see if they can catch again. I think Ava's the only one that actually caught the thing. Okay. Got him. Erica, Quest Fanning, Dub, I appreciate your support more than you know. I really appreciate you guys. Let's jump into it. So where we left off, we went through all of those cases and he was found guilty. The first thing we're going to do is play the sentencing, and it is heartbreaking. It is when you watch this man in court, it got me right here when I watched this the first time after learning. Like when I watched it the first time, I thought he was guilty as heck. So I'm like, forget about this guy. I don't care how upset you are. But then I dug into these cases and I watched this and I almost started crying along with him. So I'm going to play this and then I'm going to go through each case individually. Like I said, about halfway through, we'll take a break, and any super chats that come in, we'll address those. And I'll tell you all about the merchandise at thekatieZ.com, and I'll tell you more about that charity. Here we go.
Verdict seemed to be in proper order. This is in the District Court of Oklahoma County, State of Oklahoma, the State of Oklahoma versus Daniel K. Holtzclaw, case number CF 2014-5869. Verdict, count 1, sexual battery. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do upon our oaths find as follows. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery and set punishment at 8 years. Count 2, procuring lewd exhibition. Not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 3, burglary in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of burglary in the first degree, nor lesser included. Count 4, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 5, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 6, defendant is not guilty of the crime of stalking. Count 7, defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 8, defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 20 years. Count 9, rape in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree. Count 10, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 11, rape in the first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 12, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 13, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 14, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 15, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 16, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 17, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 18, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 19, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 20, rape in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree. Count 21, sexual battery. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 22, sexual battery. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 23, sexual battery. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 24, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 25, rape in the second degree by instrumentation. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the second degree. Count 26, indecent exposure. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of indecent exposure. Count 27, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 28, rape in the first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 29, rape in the first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 30, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 31, rape in the second degree by instrumentation. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the second degree, and punishment is set at 12 years. Count 32, rape in the first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 33, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery. and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 34, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 35, defendant procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 36, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Let me ask the jury, is this your verdict, so say you all? Yes. All right. Counsel, would you like to examine the verdict forms?
Not to say no. No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Holtzclaw, if you and your attorneys just come forward. Mr. Holtzclaw, this jury finds you guilty of the various counts. You will be remanded to the custody of the Oklahoma County Sheriff for formal sentencing set January 21st, 2016 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Your Honor, I'd ask to hold the jury.
All right, if you have a seat.
If you guys were counting, that's 263 years in prison. 263. So you can see why he was falling apart a little bit at the end of that. I would be too, personally. What about you? Keep in mind that some of these stories are a little bit outlandish. So let's get into the details of it. I did see some gift donations come through, and we will address those, like I said, in the middle of the show. Don't think that I didn't see you there. I gotcha. There we go. It's a live show, guys. So originally there were 20 accusers, 20 accusers, and 7 of them were eliminated immediately because their stories were, like I said, so outlandish that the police just dismissed their stories immediately. One of the accusers was even male. So a dude said, like, he saw this story on the news, I guess, and it's like, maybe I can get some money too. So he tried to come forward. But what they found out is that several of them said that it happened when Holtzclaw was already on administrative leave. So, of course, the timeline of this is that, you know, they do the investigation, he goes on administrative leave, and then it's released to the news outlets where it's on, like, the local 5 o'clock news or whatever. So once it came out on the 5 o'clock news, people were just coming out of the woodwork. So some of them, Holtzclaw was already on administrative leave, or he was in, they said it happened in a place that was just totally outside of his jurisdiction. And he was proven by his GPS, like all of these cop cars had GPS locators. He was proven not to be in that area at all. So 13 of these cases made it to trial, 13 of the 20. He was found guilty. You heard some of those. We just listened to the verdict being read. Some of them were not guilty. 8 of the women who accused him, he was found not guilty of 8 of them. So that's 40% of his accusers were found to be either there wasn't any evidence or he was lying. Now, I want to talk about the other ones because the other ones also, I think that there wasn't enough evidence or they were lying. Let's just put it this way. If these cases were to have come to trial individually instead of lumping them all together as 13, I think that each one of these cases would have been either dismissed immediately. You know, there's 7 of them immediately dismissed. 7 of them immediately dismissed. The other ones, would have gone back to the jury and they would have been found not guilty. I think the other ones that he was found guilty of as well, he would have went back and he would have been found not guilty of. But because they were lumped all together, I think these jurors had the same reaction that I did at first. When I first heard the accusations, I'm like, well, maybe if he's not guilty of all of them, he's guilty of some of them. So putting a rapist in prison for life is fine by me. Like, I really think, especially one of these is a juvenile, a 17-year-old. Personally, I think that people who rape children should be punished to death. Punished to death. That's my opinion. That's not the law, but that's how I feel about it. 40% of his accusers are lying. So out of the 20 accusers, only 3 of the 20 came forward on their own. The others were sought out by Detective Rocky Gregory and Detective Kim Davis. Now, in the title of my show, I say something about bad cops. These are the bad cops I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Daniel Holtzclaw. I'm talking about Rocky and Kim. Rocky and Kim came up with a victim profile, and then they went out and sought women who fit the profile, who also had an interaction with Holtzclaw at some point in their lives. I thought my voice was doing well today. Apparently, it's starting to give out again, but I'm going to make it through. Give me 1 second. Okay, I gotta fix that. I need to fix that avatar that's on this restream, or just put something neutral in there. We like to give Steven a little shout out every now and again. Every time I have to turn my camera off, Steven gets a little shout out. So they found women who fit the profile being Black women who were either had arrests or convictions for drug offenses or prostitution. There's 0 direct evidence. There's 0 witnesses other than the complainant, like the complaining party. All but one of the 13 of these women have filed a lawsuit against the Oklahoma City Police Department and Daniel Holtzclaw himself. This is including the ones he was found not guilty of. Now, I think that you can be found not guilty in a criminal case, but be held liable in a civil case. That's what they did with OJ. It's a different. Like in a civil trial, it just has to be a preponderance of the evidence to make you to find you guilty. And in a criminal trial, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So there's different levels to meet in these two kinds of trials. But there's one that I'm going to play for you that totally retracted her testimony after the fact and said she had never seen Holtzclaw until the day of the trial, and she's still trying to sue the city of Oklahoma Police Department. So I believe, my opinion, that these women were approached by Kim Davis and or Rocky Gregory and thought to themselves, ooh, quick payday. I can get money out of this. I'm going to say yes to whatever they say. And I'm telling you what, they spoon-fed these women their stories. Spoon-fed them. So let's start off with Janie Liggins. Now that's the one, if you remember, was the first traffic stop. Let's pull this up. I thought I had everything ready to go, but apparently I did not. Talk amongst yourselves. Are you guys talking amongst yourselves? All right. Here we go. We're going to talk about Janie Liggins, so I figured I'd put this on. This is her traffic stop. This is surveillance footage from across the street. Holtzclaw had turned off his computer and never ran Janie Liggins through the system. He admits to pulling her over because she was swerving. Liggins admitted to smoking marijuana and that she had Vicodin pills in her purse. Liggins' driver's license had been suspended for 30 years. That's 30 years. Janie's original description of Officer Holtzclaw was that he was between 35 and 45 years old. He was between the heights of 5'7" and 5'9", with bumpy skin, blonde hair, parted on the right side. Now, as you all know, Daniel Holtzclaw was 27 years old. He's 6'1", and even taller when he's wearing those police boots. He has a very smooth skin, black hair. It's got no part in it. And he's Asian. So definitely not blonde. That's her first description of the guy that pulled her over. We know that it was Daniel that pulled her over, but that's her description of the guy. Janie said that she was made to put her hands on the police car during the assault. So like on the hood of the car, put your hands on the hood while you get patted down or whatever. And she also said that while the assault was happening, she was sitting in the back seat and Holtzclaw was standing next to the car, and he had put his hands on the top of the police car right outside that rear passenger door. There were no fingerprints on the hood of the car or on the top of the car. Also, his car had not gone through the car wash or anything, because the police detectives say when this is brought up in the interview, listen to this, get a load of this. The police officers, Kim Davis to be exact, says, well, of course we didn't find fingerprints because his car was a mess. There was trash and everything all over the inside of his car. It was a mess. So when you go to a crime scene and the place is trashed, it's very difficult to find fingerprints. We're talking about fingerprints on the outside of a very smooth police car where fingerprints would definitely be, right? So having trash, apparently he would use his front passenger floorboard just as his trash can. So if he'd have a snack or what, oh, I almost knocked over my Red Bull. If he'd have a snack or whatever when it was empty, he'd just throw it down there and then clean it out once a week or however often. I don't know how people live like that, but people do. I've seen people's cars like that for sure. So no fingerprints for Janie or Holtzclaw were found on the car. Holtzclaw's DNA was not found on Liggins. Liggins' DNA was not found on Holtzclaw. There was no pubic hair or DNA found anywhere in the back seat of the patrol car at all. So he had never been in the back seat of his patrol car, apparently. But if this was happening in the backseat of his patrol car over and over and over again, 20 times, according to the people who came forward, you'd think a little bit of his DNA would get somewhere in the backseat of that patrol car. It did not. I wanted to make a point that when they collected Holtzclaw's uniform, because remember when he went in for that police interview, he was wearing the same uniform that he had worn the night before, right? So when they collected the police uniform, the male detective, Rocky, put his hand, he took the evidence bag out, put his hand in there to open the bag and then put the uniform in, which is not how you collect stuff for DNA at all. That just breaks all of the rules of good police work. So I just wanted to let you know that, just to show you how inept these officers were when dealing with this case. Touch DNA and transfer DNA is a thing. We'll get into it a little more in a minute. So Janie says he orally sodomized her by unzipping his pants and pulling his thingy out of the zipper hole. Holtzclaw wore, let's talk about guys' underwear. I don't know a lot about male underwear. I just know what kind of underwear my husband wears, and it's not this type. But apparently the type of underwear that Holtzclaw wears, and he had it on that day, and all of his underwear at his house were this kind of underwear, so it's not like maybe he was wearing a different pair of underpants. It was compression underwear with no opening in the fly area. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought all men's underwear had a little opening in the fly area. That's not apparently the way the world works. There's underwear that's called compression underwear. They're like boxer briefs, and there's no opening in the front. That's what he was wearing. So how on earth physically could you unzip your fly and put your thingy through the hole of your zipper if you have compression underpants on? Guys in the chat, let me know if this is possible. The way I read it, I think that it's just impossible. Like, I just don't think that that could have happened that way, in my opinion. Okay, Might Be Wrong says that it's for athletes and wannabe athletes. Holtzclaw was a very good football player, so that could be like in high school and in college he played football, so he was an athlete. Surveillance video of the traffic stop, which is what's on the screen right now, is way too far away to see any details at all. It shows no wrongdoing at all. But it did show that Daniel searched the woman's car for drugs and alcohol, just like he said he had. Just exactly like he said he had. Let's show you Janie. This is Janie, by the way, who we were just talking about. Janie Liggins. Moving on to Terry Morris. There's Terry. And I apparently have another link in my notes that I did not put on screen. There it is. So Terry Morris changed her story several times. The description she gave of the officer that assaulted her does not match Holtzclaw either, just like Janie Liggins. It doesn't match him at all. She describes him as, I think this is the one that described him as a Mexican man. You would think I would have put that. It is in my notes up here. Hold on. I have to jump around on my notes. I did too much. I'm always doing too much. Did too much. Okay, yes. Okay, so she said the officer was white with dark skin and brown hair, which does matter. Well, he's not white. But then later in the investigation, she said that he was Mexican. He's not Mexican or white. He's Asian. He's very obviously Asian too, by the way. It's not like he's like a little Asian. Oh, and this is the one where she said that he was driving a black and white patrol car with a cage in it. If you recall from the last episode, he was not driving a black and white patrol car and had only driven a black and white patrol car like a year earlier when his car was in a fender bender and it had to get fixed, and they gave him like a loaner police car that was a black and white police car. So he did not have this black and white police car at all during the time that Terry Morris was assaulted. This is one of the ones where Kim Davis decided to find this person and feed her the information that would match the other victims. I'm going to play a little bit of that interview now.
Okay, we're not here about that. We're not working that case or anything. We received it. We work in sex crimes.
Like, just pay attention to how Kim Davis just strings this woman along, and you can see, like, she's obviously in jail for some other offense right now and is thinking, "Hey, I could if they think I'm a victim of assault from a police officer, I could probably get out of jail and get some money out of this. Let's see what happens."
Okay. And we received a tip. We're in the middle of an investigation, and during that investigation, a tip came across that you may have been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. Get a chair.
I have to mute that for a second because they drag a chair across the floor, I remember from last week. I don't wanna blow your guys' eardrums out again.
We'd like to talk to you about that. And we'll take as much time as you need. I'm gonna take some notes if you don't care. Do you remember, can I ask some questions? Are you ready? Do you remember what month it was?
No.
Okay. Did you ever tell anybody? Okay. Can you tell me I'm gonna ask you a question, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and I'm not judging or anything. Were you on drugs that day? Okay. That's fine. What were you using that day?
Crack.
Okay.
And I've been drinking. That's all.
Drinking?
What's that sound?
East side.
Do you remember, were you driving or were you walking? How did you come in contact with him?
I was walking.
Do you remember what street you were walking on?
No, I had just left 16th and Jordan.
Okay. And where did you get stopped?
Like 17th or 18th in Kate. Over. It was close to a park.
Do you know where that comes? Okay. I don't know the east side very good, but she does, so I'm gonna be 18th near Kate. What time of day was it?
It was like 6 or 7
In the evening? Okay, tell me this, and it'll help me. Time of year, was it dark or was it still light?
It was kind of dark.
So that's gonna be before daylight savings time, before the time change, or do you know? What were you wearing to tell me the weather?
I had on, it had just started getting warm.
Okay. So do you remember what you were wearing?
I know I had on some jeans. I had on some black jeans, and I can't remember what. I know I had on like a tank top with a jacket over it.
What kind of jacket? Like a coat or like a sweatshirt type of jacket or something else?
It was one of the flannel hoodies, jackets.
Okay. Tell me a little bit. You tell me, you left 16th and Jordan. Is that where you were smoking and drinking? Okay. And you start walking, were you walking alone?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you got approached.
It
Did he come from behind you, from the side of you, or from directly straight on?
was from behind me.
Okay.
He stopped and asked me if I had ID.
Did he get out of the car to ask you that?
Yes.
And he asked if you had ID.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you?
Yes.
Did you have a purse or did you have it in your
I had it in
pocket?
my pocket.
Okay. Did you give it to him?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what happened next.
He ran a check and I came back clear.
Did he run a check over the radio or over his computer, or do you know?
I don't know. I remember.
Okay. Then what? Now, when he's running you, are you standing outside of the car? Are you sitting in
Yeah,
the
he
car?
was sitting on the curb.
Did he get back in the car to run you?
Yes.
Are you on his driver's side or passenger side when you're
Passenger
sitting on the
side.
curb? Okay. Then what happened?
And he started asking me about other girls that was working girls and stuff that was around through that area, if I knew any of them. And
Did he call them working girls?
he said, are there any, he actually said,
Was he out of
he
the
more or
car?
less pertained it, like I was out there working and I told him I wasn't, I was on my way home.
Was he out of the car when he was doing this?
Yes,
Have you ever been a working girl before?
years ago.
Okay. Go ahead.
And I told him I didn't know what he was talking about. It's like there's a lot of people be out walking around.
Okay.
And he said something about with me always being in that area that I knew what was going on and stuff like that.
So now you're both standing and facing each other? Okay.
Only thing else I can remember is him trying to fondle my breast.
How did that happen?
When during the contact did that happen?
After I stood up,
Are y'all like still in the curb area? Or are you in front of the scout car? Or?
it's right, I'm sitting on the curb and I get up and he's right here leaning up toward this passenger.
To stop Terry right there. I just wanted you to see how these interviews started to happen. Remember, only 3 of them came forward on their own and said anything happened at all. And all 3 of those people described a short black officer. Any of them that described Holtzclaw were interviews like this, where the detectives sought the people out and spoon fed them a story. Like, here's a story. We're trying to get this guy. The description that the officer that assaulted her does not match. Also, this is a big one. The GPS in Holtzclaw's car doesn't match with the location she gave of the assault. It says that the car was in that location and it kept driving. He was in that area for around 3 minutes and the car never stopped. It slowed down to about 2 miles an hour as it circled this park where it happened, or where it allegedly happened. I guess where it happened, since he's been convicted of this 263 years, guys. The car never stopped. Also, not a black and white cruiser. She says it was a black and white. She did not have a black and white. I'm going to move along to Shardarian Hill. Now, do you guys remember Shardarian? She's the one who said that she was selling PCP, and when the cops stopped her, she decided to eat the PCP. She ate the vial of the PCP. So, of course, they take her to the hospital. Makes sense. So they're at the hospital. She's telling the story. This is one of the ones that came forward on her own, by the way. But she says that the hospital gave her something to like make her come off the drugs. I assume it was some sort of charcoal or something like that to absorb the drug so she doesn't OD. And she's handcuffed with one hand to the bed, to the hospital bed, and they're waiting for her to come down off of the drugs. And anybody at any time can, when you're in the emergency room or in the hospital, it's not a private location. Have any of you been in a hospital? Anybody could walk in at any time. I assume at night they might like knock if you're checked into the hospital, like upstairs in a room, like you just had surgery or something. They might do a little before they walk in, but they're not knocking and waiting for an answer. This was not that at all. This was in like the emergency department, just waiting for her to come down off of drugs. And it wasn't, I may have misstated last week where I said it was like the curtains in the emergency room, which is how the emergency room is near where I live. But I may have misspoken about that because there was an actual door. It was a room with a door, but still there's no way that somebody could expect privacy. It just doesn't make sense that he would assault her in the hospital. It just doesn't make sense. And this one is disproven almost immediately. Keep in mind, this came out at trial. Like we were talking to Shane the other day and how his story was that stuff had come out at trial that was not known before. Like it was evidence that was withheld. This is evidence that was withheld from the defense until trial. The very end of her police interview, the very, very end of the police interview, she says this.
He whips out his penis. He tries to get you to go down on him, go drive around the corner, have sex with him. You're like, no, 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 no. He briefly talks about the charges. And you don't do anything, no touching. And then the bond, jail, out, still some contact. And then Houston, then he tries to get a hold of you unless you know you got a warrant, but you're in Houston. Okay, and we've got the Facebook messages, everything like that.
Right.
Anything you tell me today, has it been any lies, anything like that?
No.
Okay. Well, you've been pretty honest about stuff. So, you got any questions of me?
I don't know. Is that like, was the other girl situation, was they like mine?
Well, I can't necessarily go into that. Okay. Have you ever talked to anybody
No.
about their situations?
No, I don't know nobody else that he done that to or none of that.
Okay.
So this is good evidence?
Well, you tell me.
I think so, because I mean, y'all, even if he didn't like even rape nobody or nothing, he's been in contact with people that he was arrested.
Well, was there ever a nurse who came into it?
I'm going to play that for you one more time.
Barely go into that. Okay.
Just for the guys in the back who didn't hear what she said. It was 2013, 2014, Erica.
Have you ever talked to anybody
No,
about their situations?
No, I don't know nobody else that he done that to or none of that.
Okay.
So this is good evidence?
Was it good evidence? Was this good evidence?
Well,
Look at the grin on her face, too. Like she's really getting one over.
you tell me.
I think so, because I mean, y'all, even if he didn't like even rape nobody or nothing.
I think so, because even if he didn't rape nobody,
And he's been in contact with people that he was arrested.
he's still getting in contact with people he arrested. Remember, this is the lady who he was worried about. So he did a Facebook friend request and messaged her asking, hey, are you staying out of trouble? Like she almost died and he took her to the hospital. So he messaged her on Facebook and said, and also she didn't have a record before this. So he shouldn't have, but he did. He contacted her on Facebook and said, hey, are you doing okay? Are you staying out of trouble? You know, he was being a kind person, I believe. And this is how she repays him.
Was the other girl situation, was they like mine?
Well, I can't necessarily go into that. Okay. Have you ever talked to anybody
No.
about their situations?
No, I don't know nobody else that he done that to or none of that.
Okay.
So this is good evidence?
Well, you tell me.
I think so, because I mean, y'all, even if he didn't like even rape nobody or nothing, he's been in contact with people that he arrested.
Crazy, in my opinion. What do you guys think? This not coming out until the trial started is insane to me. Is just absolutely insane to me. This should have been thrown out immediately with the first however many that I said got thrown out. This should have been kaput over with. I couldn't believe that when I heard it. We need peace. Here's what happened is there was transcripts of what was given over as evidence to the defense, the discovery it's called. So what was given over as discovery was the transcripts of these interviews and the reports done about the interviews. This part of it, after they're done with the interview, was not included in the transcripts or the report. That little bit at the very end, when she thinks she's off camera, she thinks they're done, that part was not handed over. The defense watched the whole thing and didn't shut it off when they were wrapping up, like apparently the prosecution did. Or they didn't and they just ignored that, right? And they had to go back to chambers to play it because they wanted to bring it up as evidence. The defense wanted to bring it up as evidence in the trial. And the prosecution's like, wait, we didn't see that. We don't know what that is. So they had to go back to chambers to play it for the prosecution before they could play it in court. So this is one of the cases that he was found not guilty of. And it's because of this. But there could have been 263 years, could have been 270 or whatever, he could have just added to the time. So far we've gone over Shardarian Hill, Terry Morris, and Janie Liggins. Tell me right now, if each one of these cases, tell me in the chat if you think any one of these, if they were tried on their own, he would have been found guilty of. Just if you could put in the chat either yes, guilty of one or more of them, or not guilty on all three. Just let me know if you're thinking the same way that I am. And while you're doing that, I'm going to move on to Shandice Barksdale. Records show Barksdale gave a height and weight that did not match Holtzclaw, and that his patrol car's GPS indicated that he was not in the area on that date. So after being confronted about those details, she admitted lying about the incident, and she said that she just wanted to help after seeing news reports of the other women reporting the assault. So that's one that got thrown out immediately, obviously. So she just admitted lying. Sherry Ellis described her officer as a black man who was shorter than her, described his car as a black and white police car. So people are unsure in the chat, it looks like. Major Victory says yes. Erica says not guilty. I don't know what the yes you think it wouldn't have. I thought I had this interview pulled up. Shernese Barksdale. All right. You apparently don't have them. I'm getting there, guys. Okay, so I'm just gonna read this one. I thought I had her interview pulled up. I might try to find it real quick. It's a live show. Sorry for the delay. I'm trying to get my stuff together. Here we go. I did have it. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. I got it though. Hopefully that's the last. That's not going to be the last time. I'm me. I am me, and this is what I do. All right, in August of 2014, Oklahoma City resident Shanice J. Barksdale filed a false report against OKC police officer Daniel Holtzclaw for sexual assault. We're going to listen to this right now. This is where she is admitting that she made the whole thing up. There's a lot of these, by the way, where they just come back after the fact, after he's already been convicted of 263 years of sentence in prison. They come back and they're like, yeah, I lied. I lied. I'm going to go to where they actually come in and start talking to her. Here we go.
So to be clear, I'm going to run down through this. Officer Holtzclaw never even stopped you. Is that correct?
Am I in trouble?
Well, I gotta make sure here, okay?
The audio on this is very low. I turned it up as much as I can. So if you need to turn up your headphones or whatever you're watching on, do that now. And I'll try not to talk during it so I don't blow your eardrums out.
Okay. So he never touched you? Is it yes or no?
No. I never seen him.
Okay. Has any police officer ever touched you in an inappropriate manner? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. You know why I gotta ask you all these things, right? And explain to me again why you came in here. You signed this. This is your piece of paper. This is your story that you gave me, right? Why? And this is the story that you told. Why?
I just felt bad for her, and I just wanted to know, like, she wasn't the only victim or anything.
You felt bad for who?
The lady. And she was so
What lady? I've got lots of ladies.
Well, I only know about the 57-year-old. That's the only one I know about.
And you found out about her from what?
The Facebook.
Okay.
KOCO5.
And you decided to do what?
Just write. You know, just do something on her behalf because I felt bad for her.
So.
I wasn't trying to go to trial or anything.
So
I just wanted to tell the story.
and you thought it would do what?
made feel like she's not the only one. But I didn't know it was others.
So you just made up the entire story?
Well, I did get put over in Woodland Park, but some of that, yeah.
Okay. But that was on a legit stop? But not with
But I
Officer
didn't-
Holtzclaw?
No.
Okay. But you lied on everything you said today? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So he made up everything to try to help her out.
And I felt bad for her.
Well, you got yourself in a bind. Okay.
No, please. No, please. Please don't.
Look, I don't know. I'm gonna have to pass this by the DA.
You do.
Of course I do. Just like I told you, these victims,
What you say about
we're trying to protect these victims.
I was trying to. Okay.
No, you were just coming in here and you told lies. The truth, okay? I mean, you're talking to the guy who arrested the guy, okay? Obviously, the police department's trying to do whatever it can, okay? We don't want this guy out here hurting our own citizens. I don't know why you didn't think, like, let him go down. It's not like we're trying to cover up everything. You knew we arrested him. We had already come out and told everybody, this is what's going on. The public knows everything about it. I don't think you watched the news entirely, or you would
I
have
don't
known a
watch
lot more.
them. I don't watch them.
I'll be honest with you, you're in trouble.
No, please.
But let's just see where it goes. I told you I wouldn't arrest you today. Okay?
What'd you say?
I said I wouldn't arrest you today. So he didn't stick his hand down your pants. He didn't touch your breasts. You know, I'm out there trying to look for real victims, and now I gotta take time out and work on your lies. There's others out there that's real.
I didn't know it was a lie. I thought it was just that woman because I felt bad for her. But she was so old.
Hey, hang on. I gotta pass this by. Okay. If I didn't have to work on this case, okay, and try to track down real victims, because I've had to go to a lot of women stuff happened with, okay? They didn't come forward. I've had to go find them, okay? If I didn't have that real thing to do right now, I probably would arrest you, okay? Because you're taking time out of a very important thing. You have, I mean, it's already been out there, okay? You should go and watch the news and see where things are at and how many victims, okay?
I am so sorry.
Well, you're probably getting ready to have to say you're sorry to a whole lot of women. It's taken everything they got to come forward. Everything. They didn't want to. And they don't know about the others either. But stuff happened to them. Just because of one jerk officer, okay, out there doing stuff, that doesn't mean that there's a lot of us out here that don't care. And he ain't the first one I've arrested either.
Or police
We don't want them. There's bad everywhere. There's bad pastors, there's bad doctors, lawyers, cops, firefighters, on and on and on. It doesn't matter. I mean, we all gotta, you gotta weed out the bad, keep the good. But that made the cause worse. All right, let's go.
No charges filed. I'm whispering because I had you guys turn that up because the audio on that was so quiet. So turn your audio back down now. I'm going to start yelling. Do it now. Anyway, no charges filed on this woman at all. I want to make a public announcement right now. If you are a woman and you falsely accuse somebody of rape or sexual assault or anything like that, you are doing a disservice to every single actual victim out there. If you do that, you are a horrible person, not only because you are ruining a man's life because of your false accusations, but people who are actually victims of sexual assault or rape are not going to be believed in the future because of you. Don't do that. Stop it. Stop it right now. Public service announcement over. So yeah, these people who came forward and were obviously lying, their stories were obviously disproven. Nothing happens to them. Nothing happened to them in this case. We talked about at the beginning. There was 20 accusers at first, and more than 40% of them were proven liars. 40%. The other ones, there's no actual evidence that anything happened. I'm going to go through the rest of them here in a second, but we're at about the halfway point, so it's ad time. First of all, I want to say thank you to Erica, who donated memberships. And Erica, I'm sorry, I didn't catch how many. I think it was 5, but it was more than that. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. I just wrote down that you gifted memberships. Congratulations to anybody who received one of those gift memberships. Remember, when we end up doing the game night stream, you can come up and play if you're a member. So anybody who got those memberships, you can come up and play the game night. We did have to cancel it for yesterday because I couldn't talk yesterday. I can barely talk normally, but today I'm doing a little bit better anyway. Also, thank you very much to Ron, who did do a $2, $3 super chat. I think it was a $2, but we're going to give the doggo some treats now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 snacks for the dogs. Thank you very much. 2 for each of them. 2 for each of them. There she is. Xena, do you want a snack? She's awake. Do a shake. You gotta get up. Do a shake. There you go. We have Samuel L. Jackson here today as well. Cena, come here. There's 2 for her. Sit. Look at those mugs. I mean, how can you not do a super chat right now? Just look at them. Just look at them. Do a shake. Do a shake. Do a shake. Do a high five. High five. High five. High five. There you go. There's Luke. All right. Look at that face. How can you resist? I know. How can you resist those eyes? She gets anything she wants. That dog. She's spoiled. Don't forget that if you go to ktzed.com, that's ktzed.com, and you purchase anything from the King collection. So we're at ktzed.com. If you go to this King collection right here, anything from this King collection, all of the proceeds go to onemorechild.org. Onemorechild.org, and they just knocked the camera over. Onemorechild.org does provide Christ Center services to vulnerable children and struggling families. Onemorechild.org is a great organization. I'm going to pull up their website for you as well, and we'll go back. They do all sorts of good stuff. They are not only taking care of single moms, they're also taking care of struggling families, which I like because they're definitely helping out. Like a lot of times these organizations only help out single moms. So they are basically making it a disadvantage to have the fathers in the lives of these children. And not this organization, though. They help out the whole family when they're struggling. So I like that a lot. They help trafficked children, teens and children who were sex trafficked. They definitely help them out as well. So go to ktzed.com, go to the King collection. You can get any of these shirts here. They're great. I love the designs. Stephen Ignoramus, Frank from Let's Be Frank channel, and I collaborated on these designs, and we all put in a lot of hard work to get these out there so we could raise money for this organization. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. Man, I'm having trouble speaking today. But look at how cool those designs are. I think they're fire, honestly, in my opinion. You can get your coffee mug. I actually have one of these coffee mugs. I have my tea. I'm drinking my tea out of right now. This is the one I have. I have this one in blue. Right here. Pick one of those up. I need that tea with honey to help my voice, for sure. Of course, not only, that's not the only thing we have at ktzed.com. You can get your Crime Land stuff. You can get your Overruled merchandise. You can even pick up stuff from Steven's store right here. I mean, but who wants to do that? Forget about that. Forget about that. Get your True Crime with Xena merchandise. Get your doggo a little bandana that says True Crime with Xena so you can snuggle up with your pup and watch my show on Sundays at 4:30. I see another super chat came in from Might Be Wrong over there. It was a Rumble rant, actually. He says he has a love-hate relationship with this story. Don't we all? Don't we all, Might Be Wrong? Let me check our chat here to see if anybody else donated. I don't think so. If you guys did and I did not see it, please let me know. All of the dogs except for Leia left, so might be wrong. Leia's gonna get a treat on your behalf. Oh, they heard it. They heard it. Do a sit. Sit. Could you sit? Seat. Shake. Do a high five. High five. Thank you. Here you go, Leia. Zena, do a shake. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I would appreciate even more if you went to onemorechild.org and made a donation just to them, or if you bought one of those Christ is King t-shirts. I would like that a lot. Ava just stole Leia's treat. So I would appreciate it if you guys go directly to onemorechild.org and made a donation directly to them if you're feeling generous. Or you can pick up one of those Christ is King t-shirts over at katiez.com. I would appreciate that as well. I have one of them on right now. I forgot to show it off. I have the gray with the purple logo. Let's get back to the story. Thank you for bearing with me during the ad break. I think it's a lot better to do an ad break where there's doggos involved, especially on a show like this. I think having the dogs involved kind of takes, it's like stress relief for the horrible things we're talking about. A little stress relief. So the next person we're going to talk about is Sherry Ellis. Sherry Ellis described the officer that assaulted her as a black man who was shorter than her, who drove a black and white police car. By the way, Sherry Ellis was 5'11". Holtzclaw was 6'1". Taller with those boots on, by the way. Says he picked her up at 16th Street and Highland and dropped her off at Northeast 16th Street and Miramar. Holtzclaw GPS says he was in the area but never stopped the car. That's another one where, yeah, he drove by but never stopped. Tabitha Barnes. Tabitha. This is an interesting one. I'm just going to let Tabitha tell you her story in her own words. How about that?
How many times did Holtzclaw touch you inappropriately?
He didn't touch me.
He never touched you?
No.
Next to the third to the last line says, Holtzclaw then asked Plaintiff Barnes if there was anything under her breast and fondled Plaintiff Barnes' naked breast. Do you see that?
You just read it. Yes, I see it, sir.
Isn't that different than what you testified today?
What do you mean is that different?
Didn't you say Holtzclaw didn't touch you?
He didn't touch me.
So this is a mistake.
He did not touch me.
Okay, and if you go back to Defendant's Exhibit number 11, which is the information count 1.
Go ahead.
5 lines from the bottom of count 1, directing TB to expose her breast and then touching her bare breast with his hand without her consent. That's also a mistake.
He didn't touch me.
Okay. And you understand that Mr. Holtzclaw was convicted of sexual battery on that count as a result of your testimony?
Yes.
So that would have been a lie?
What would have been a lie?
The fact that he was charged with touching you?
I don't know what he was charged with. I know he was charged with 3 counts of me exposing myself.
Okay.
Just one further question, Ms. Barnes. You would agree, would you not, that you have to be 100% truthful about what you've told us today for you to prevail in your lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, and you've been 100% truthful with us today about everything that you claimed?
Yeah, that...
You haven't
yeah,
lied
that,
to us, right?
No. Everything that I remember is what I remember. That's what I'm telling you.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of that? I know what I think of it. So I just saw somebody in the chat say that Holtzclaw is a monster. I assume, Final Trans, that you have not been watching this episode that you just got here. Holtzclaw is innocent. I'm just going to say it. Holtzclaw is 100% innocent. Let's watch the next one and the next person who testified against him.
Just into our newsroom, a never-before-seen video involving the aftermath of the trial for fired and convicted Oklahoma City police officer Daniel Holtzclaw. Just 2 weeks ago, we brought you video showing one of his 13 accusers backtracking on her testimony. Tonight, video showing a different victim saying the trial was the first time she ever saw Holtzclaw. You may remember
the first time she ever saw him was at trial. These officers, Kim Davis, Rocky Gregory, put these words into these women's mouth with the hopes of a lawsuit and a payout. And one by one, the dominoes are falling. And guess who's still sitting in prison for 263 years?
he was sentenced to 264 years in prison after a jury found him
My bad. 264. I was mistaken. 264 years. That's worse.
Guilty of raping women while on patrol in northeast Oklahoma City. News 4's Austin Brissett is on the night news.
The release of the video and the accompanying statement claims that OKC police railroaded Holtzclaw in their investigation into the allegations. But a statement from the district attorney says otherwise.
I have never seen him but before trial. That's when I finally seen who accused of raping me.
A statement supporters of Daniel Holtzclaw say should blow the lid off an entire Oklahoma City police investigation, saying this accuser's contradictory testimony, quote, exposes how OCPD railroaded Daniel by soliciting sexual assault allegations and pinning them on him.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Between 2013 and 2014, the then Oklahoma City officer was accused of raping and sexually assaulting 13 women while on patrol. In 2015, he was convicted on 18 felony counts and sentenced to 263 years in prison. 62 of those years based on the allegations of Sherry Ellis Smith alone.
He was a black man. Okay. He was in a black and white police car.
This video from 2014. Ellis Smith speaking to investigators describing her.
You remember what I said about the police car, right? All of these ones that said he was in a black and white police car should automatically be thrown out. He was not. He was in the newer version. It was like a grayish blue. police car. The old police cars were black and white. He had a new one.
Attacker is a short black man with a darker skin tone than her own.
How tall are you?
5'11".
I want to get a DNA sample from you today. And the reason I want to get a DNA sample is because I know what officer did this to you.
Holtzclaw's advocates pointing out that the now 35
Kim Davis knows what officer she wants to pin this on.
year-old is a 6'1" Japanese American man, saying, quote, detectives solicited and procured wrongful allegations specifically from at-risk black women. They also claim police never showed Ellis Smith a photo lineup. Now, during never-before-seen deposition video of Ellis Smith, she admitted to never seeing Holtzclaw before until trial.
I have never seen him but before trial. That's when I finally seen who accused of raping me.
Oklahoma County District Attorney David Prater responded to this release with a statement, saying in part, quote, those issues were raised and were rejected by the jury after hearing sworn testimony and viewing exhibits during trial. We also reached out to Oklahoma City Police, and they did not have any comment for us. Meanwhile, this comes off the heels of a
The police never have any comment for you. I tried to contact the Commerce Police Department, Commerce, Georgia Police Department recently for a story I was covering. They never got back to me.
previous video released a little over 2 weeks ago of a different Holtzclaw accuser who later claimed that he never touched her.
So that's where we're at. Can you believe it? I know you can. Now there's one case. No, let's go in order. The one that I kept coming back to in my head was the one with the DNA. We'll get to that. First, we're going to go talk about Carla Johnson. Carla, where are you? Here she is. Yeah, share that screen. There's Carla. Let's talk about Carla Johnson. Carla Johnson said that, now this is the one where she was walking down the street and she was stopped by the police officer, and then she said that he had put his hands down the front of her pants and touched her nether regions, and also fondled her chest area. After the assault, when she was being interviewed, here's another, sorry, I get sidetracked, but this interview was not video recorded at all. Kim Johnson took another female officer to Carla Johnson's house to interview her, and she, when asked at trial why she didn't videotape this, she said, oh, well, I didn't think she was going to be home, so I didn't bring any audio or video recordings. Every single other victim was either audio or video recorded. This one is not. If you remember, the transcripts do not always match. The transcripts and the reports don't always match what we've seen on the video and the audio recordings. So the fact that this has no video or audio at all is really suspicious, in my opinion. Very suspicious. So during her interview, which I'm going to say allegedly, because who knows if this actually is the case or not, because she didn't record it. She said after the assault, she called her roommate. They interviewed the roommate after Holtzclaw had been arrested, not immediately after this interview like a normal investigator would, but after he's already been arrested and they go about collecting evidence. They call the roommate, and the roommate says, well, she did call me, but I didn't answer because it was late at night. She left a voicemail, and in the voicemail, which he deleted for whatever reason, I mean, I guess you could delete voicemails if they're not pertinent. If what she says was in the voicemail, I don't see how he would delete it. What he says was in the voicemail was that she's running late because she got stopped by a police officer and he searched her all over. That's it. Just that I got stopped and they searched me all over for drugs. The roommate says, or Carla said the next day, she sat down with her roommate and told him the whole story of how he fondled her breasts, how he went down the front of her pants and touched her in sexual ways down there. She says she went over all of this with her roommate over coffee the next morning. The roommate says that never happened at all. That never happened. She didn't tell me about that. This is another one of the women who was sought out by Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory for fitting the description or fitting the, they came up with a list of attributes that these victims would have, and she fit them, being that she had been arrested for either drugs or prostitution in the past, sometimes both. She was a black woman, lived in the area. That's it. Also, she had been stopped by Holtzclaw. That's the entire case, by the way, against Holtzclaw for Carla Johnson. Do you think with that evidence that he would be convicted of that specifically just by itself? I don't think he would be. I'm so sick right now, guys. I apologize. Carla Rains. So this is, Rocky sought her out as well. Rocky was looking for her, sought her out, and, found her, started questioning her. And she said, I wasn't a victim. Wasn't me. 7 different times she said this. 7 different times. And I'm going to find the timestamp of 44:38 so you can see her denying 7 different times. 7 times. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. Are you sure you're not a victim? Are you positive? And then she ends up going along with Detective Rocky Gregory's story after 7 denials.
Have you ever come to any contact where an officer has been inappropriate?
No.
You ever had to expose yourself to him?
No.
Okay.
But,
You wasn't asked to, if you had any drugs on you, anything like that, and you had to
expose myself? But I know what you're talking about.
That's the clasp and shake.
No. I haven't had. How did you get my name anyway on something like this? Because I haven't really been on the streets and stuff that much. There's only one officer that I know a few years back. He was a black cop. They used to come around here. He exposed himself to me. I hope I helped you, but
once again, when she finally says, okay, well, maybe I was a victim, she describes a black cop, not an Asian American officer who's 6'1", by the way, 6 foot, like really recognizable, 6'1" Japanese American cop.
You did. You did.
You look in Rocky Gregory's official police report, it doesn't mention a single one of those times that she said, I'm not a victim. It says from the very first paragraph, she is a victim.
Another very damning sin of omission.
Right, and I guarantee you the police chief and nobody else listened to the interview. They were provided with a hard copy report, and they read that report, and that report reads completely different than their interaction did. So it's not hard to understand why the rest of the department fell in line and felt Daniel was guilty, because all they have to base it on are these reports that are extremely biased in how that they're produced.
Perhaps this evidence.
I wanted to leave that part in there because it really This gentleman did a podcast, by the way, which I'll link in the description. Great podcast. Goes over each one of these cases individually, but it really puts into perspective how this happened. They were given reports and not the actual recordings of these interviews. And in the reports, they omitted all of the stuff that didn't fit their narrative. All of the things that didn't fit their narrative, they just didn't even put in there.
Is why jurors found Daniel not guilty on her charges. So we're looking beyond the incomplete reports and going straight to the interviews. Like this one, Detective.
This one we already went over because I'm going in order of when they happened. So I think Carla Raines, what do you guys think of that one? Yes or no? Guilty, not guilty? I know my answer. Like, seriously, when you look at them individually, it's just ridiculous that this guy got charged at all. Sarita Bowen, she told people what happened, and eventually a friend saw the news report, and the friend contacted the detectives. She didn't even contact the detectives. Once again, this person did not describe Holtzclaw as the cop who assaulted her. I think something happened to these women, some of these women. That one in the hospital, I don't think anything happened to. Several of them, I don't think anything happened to. But a lot of these women, I really think something happened to them, but not by Daniel Holtzclaw. You can't hold the whole police department. You can't just throw a dart and randomly pick out a cop and then pin all of these crimes to them. They wanted to close these cases, and they found an idea, or they found a scapegoat in order to do that, and they ended up closing all of these cases. Regina Copeland's another one. Daniel Holtzclaw's GPS clearly shows he never even drove down the street that she's saying that this happened. In reality, the GPS says that he was doing his job that night and patrolling the designated areas. Where he was supposed to be. He was where he was supposed to be when she says this happened. He didn't even come into contact with this one. Here's the one where I saw it. We're getting towards the end, but this is the one when I first saw it, I thought to myself, oh, this guy is totally guilty. Let's get him. Get him now. Because this is the 17-year-old. The 17-year-old girl whose DNA was found on Daniel's pants. On the zipper part of his pants, by the way. That's an issue. Not only that she's 17. When I first saw it, that's what I thought, by the way. Not only that she's 17, but also because her DNA was done, or was, on the zipper of his pants. Holtzclaw's uniform was taken into evidence, and a buccal swab was done. Until recently, I always called that a buccal swab, but apparently it's called a buccal swab, and I was wrong for many, many years, and I admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong about that. So in previous episodes, if I ever called it a buccal swab, my apologies. That's not how that's pronounced. Holtzclaw uniform was taken into evidence. In addition to Holtzclaw's DNA on his pants, 2 other samples of DNA were found. An unidentified male, which really could have been that cop who totally contaminated the evidence by putting his hand in the evidence bag before he put the uniform in, right? And then a female. The female victim came back to a 17-year-old female that Holtzclaw had stopped earlier in the day. Now, when the mom was questioned, she said, this teenager had gone missing for a while. The mom called in a missing persons report, and a cop brought her home. I'm so sorry I'm dying here. So the mom, when questioned, the girl had gone missing and police brought her home, and the mom said on a recording that the daughter said that she had been brought home, or that she had met a hot cop earlier in the day. She was 17. Holtzclaw was 27. Now, laws are different than some people's morals. Some people morally think a 27-year-old being with a 17-year-old is wrong. Morally. I don't know one way or the other if that's wrong, but I can tell you that in the state of Oklahoma at this time, the legal age of consent was 16. So even if something did happen, which I don't believe it did, but even if it did, the age doesn't have anything to do with this. She's an adult per the laws of the state of Oklahoma. On the stand, the mom said she never said that. And then they played a recording of her saying that, and she still denied that she ever said that, which is a little crazy to me. The way the DNA got there could be a myriad of different ways. There's something called touch DNA. Now, touch DNA happens all the time. I know that people who have gone to forensic school have told me that when they do tests, when they're figuring this out in school, they will test the bottom of your shoes, and there will be hundreds of DNA profiles on the bottom of your shoes just from people dropping skin cells or sweating or spitting on the sidewalk, all of those things. I'm going to play a little clip from this documentary that I watched that explains better than I could, and plus I can't really speak right now, of how touch DNA can happen.
He is president of Forensic Bioinformatics, which reviews test results from criminal trials all over the world. He and his company have been involved in high-profile cases, like the Casey Anthony trial in Florida, the sniper case in Washington, D.C., and the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski.
The presence of a DNA profile doesn't tell us anything about the time frame or the circumstances under which that DNA came to be on the evidence sample.
And it's easier than you might think for one of these tiny particles to transfer.
I have two different kinds of sweetener here. I got sugar and an artificial sweetener. And I think what we can do is just show how the transfer could take place. Let me hand you the actual sugar, and I've got here a sweetener. If we just rip them open, right, I'm going to put some of my sweetener on my hand.
Once I saw this little demonstration that they're about to do, it just made total sense to me. So that's why I'm playing this part for you guys.
And we'll gram with a sweetener. So I got a pretty sweet hand right now, right?
Mine's all
Now,
naturally sweet.
Yeah. So the thing is that it's not going to be at all surprising if at this point we shake hands, right? And we come away, and I got a lot of sugar on my hand, right?
Here.
And you got a lot of sugar on your hand, right? If we were now to take our hands and pick something up, like a water bottle, for instance, would you be surprised if when I put the water bottle down, we look and we find some sugar grains on that, right? I think that's entirely reasonable.
That's frightening. My DNA, the sugar, is on that water bottle, even though I didn't touch it. It transferred when we shook hands. And it gets even scarier. What if we never even touched?
If I grabbed a purse the way that Daniel did when he was rifling through his 17-year-old accusers, and I pick up an object, and if I handed it back to you,
Sure.
what would be on it?
Interestingly, all that I see is sugar. I don't see any of the artificial sweetener, but I don't think it's at all remarkable that we would find some of that sugar on this article. And if I were to handle the article now, what we may find is the sugar's gone and it's on my hand. None of the artificial sweetener is on my hand that I can see, but I've got some sugar on my hand, and if I were to rub my shirt, the sugar's gone. It's on my shirt. If we did a DNA test, we might find only your DNA and none of mine from that transfer that we've just done.
And if you had gone to the bathroom, is it possible that some of that sugar could have transferred to the fly of your pants?
Well, of course, right? There's nothing magical about the fly of somebody's pants compared to any other part of their clothing.
So the DNA, after watching this, really made me realize that there are many different ways that DNA can get places, and it doesn't necessarily mean just because her DNA was on the fly of his pants doesn't mean that he did anything with her at all. Like I said, even if they had, she had met a hot cop earlier that day, and the age of consent in the state of Oklahoma is 16. Moving along, at trial, like you're wondering, well, how did this guy end up getting convicted then? Well, at trial, the prosecution lied. They lied about a lot of stuff, but one of the big things that they lied about, and I know it had an effect on the trial because one of the jurors did an interview after the fact and said, this is what put them over the edge. This little bit of information I'm about to tell you is what put them over the edge. During their closing statements, they said that the DNA that was found on Daniel Holtzclaw's fly of his pants was from the vaginal wall. There was vaginal fluid. First of all, that was never said by the expert at trial. That was said by the prosecution at closing arguments. Many other DNA experts said that even now, today, in 2024, there is no test to say where a skin cell came from on the body. They can tell if it's from like a rough part of like your hand or like mucous membrane like that is found on your eyes and nose and also in your genital areas. It's the same sort of skin cells. They cannot narrow it down in 2024. So in 2014, when these tests, 2013, 2014, when these tests were being done, there's absolutely no way that they could have known that. Not at all. Not one bit. They couldn't have known that. That statement said by the prosecution at closing argument should have this whole case thrown out and have a retrial done just for that alone. Also, because the jurors said themselves that that's what put them over the edge of convicting him. That's what made them think. And quite honestly, that's what made me think that he was guilty as well. That's really, when I first heard this story, that's what made me think he was guilty as well, was that. There's no two ways about it. The DNA of a 17-year-old on the fly of a 27-year-old police officer's pants made me think, oh, he's definitely guilty of something. And then, like I said, you dig into each case individually and you find out maybe not. I want to know in the chat, we're wrapping it up now. We're almost done. Do you think Daniel Holtzclaw is guilty? I'm going to do a poll since I learned how to do that recently. Is talk amongst yourselves. I'm writing innocent. I'm not writing not guilty for a reason. There's the poll. It's on YouTube. Let me know in the chat. Answer that poll question. Do you think after going through every single case individually, if he is guilty or innocent? I should have done a third choice. just not enough evidence, like not beyond a reasonable doubt, you know. In conclusion, Daniel Holtzclaw is an innocent man who was wrongfully convicted, in my opinion, of sexually assaulting 8 out of 13 African-American complainants. It was actually 8 out of 20. As you remember from the beginning of this episode, we ruled a bunch of them out just immediately. African-American complainants based on flawed forensic science, a biased and incompetent, bolded, underlined, investigation, prosecutorial misconduct, ineffective assistance of trial, of counsel at trial. During the investigation, the presumption of guilt, tunnel vision, and false forensic conclusions led to the prosecution to reverse engineer a case against Daniel following a single allegation of oral sodomy, lacking forensic evidence. Remember that first initial complaint? She said that he unzipped his pants, put his thingy through the zipper of his pants, and made her perform oral sex. We know that he wore compression underwear, and that couldn't have happened that way. I think I asked the men in the chat a little bit ago if that's possible, and they all said, no, that's not possible if you're wearing compression underwear. When an unknown female DNA profile was found on the fly of Daniel's uniform pants, police believed Daniel was guilty, ignoring the reality of DNA transfer, and they began hunting for this unknown female. Investigators used Daniel's own police records to solicit allegations specifically from at-risk African-American women with criminal histories whom Daniel had stopped. The teenager of that 17-year-old, she was a runaway, and she told her mom that she had met a hot cop. The mom denied that had happened, even when they played a recording for her of her own voice saying that. She says, I didn't say that. Like, she's just willing it into reality. Keep in mind that during the time of this, when all of this was happening, Ferguson had just happened a few months earlier, right? Also innocent until proven guilty. Not in this case. The Oklahoma, I keep saying Oklahoma. The Oklahoma City Police fired Holtzclaw 10 months before his trial even started. And William City, who was the police chief at the time, made a public statement saying his offenses against women in our community constitute the greatest abuse of police authority. The greatest abuse of police authority I have ever witnessed in my 37 years as a member of this agency. These violations more than warrant his termination from the Oklahoma City Police Department. This is out there 10 months before his trial, people. 10 months beforehand. The Fraternal Order of Police, who Holtzclaw had paid dues for the entire time he was a cop, didn't provide him with legal counsel, didn't help in his case to fight his early termination, didn't help him at all. This was decided before it even started. Keep in mind that this happened just months after the riots in Ferguson. Just months. And right when it happened, a group called Oklahoma City Artists for Justice, led by Grace Franklin, had started protesting already. They already started protesting. And the am I sharing that, Deb? Sorry, I'm not sharing it. The police department in the city of Oklahoma did not want another Ferguson on their hands.
Week, they say that their crowds have gotten even bigger. Nearly 100 protesters welcomed the morning crowd at the Oklahoma County Courthouse with signs calling for fairness. The group, OKC Artists for Justice, circled the building all morning to support the alleged victims in the Daniel Holtzclaw trial.
We want it in the forefront of people's minds.
Holtzclaw, a former police officer, is charged with sexually assaulting 13 women while on duty. Organizers of the protest believe throughout the trial, many of the victims' stories have been discounted because of their past criminal history.
A woman's character cannot be on trial when the evidence clearly shows that they were being stalked and they were being victimized.
The protesters could be heard inside the courtroom. At one point, the judge even told the jurors to ignore it. The group telling me their protest today was the biggest and most diverse yet.
It's not just about the black community. It's not just about the east side of Oklahoma City. Oklahomans have to stand up and say, we're not going to stand for this.
Now, OKC Artists for Justice says they are planning a candlelight vigil for those victims. They said that is still in the early stages, and they will announce when that is on their Facebook page. Reporting live tonight in downtown Oklahoma City, Jonathan Cooper, KOC.
So that's where we're at right now. Daniel Holtzclaw is still in prison. 237 years. If you think that he's innocent, which 100% of you that are in here right now do, according to this poll, 100% of you think that he's innocent. There's a change.org petition going on right now to free Daniel Holtzclaw, and it goes through the whole case here as well. If you want more information about it, there's links here as well. I'm going to put this in the chat. Please go sign that. We need to do something. He needs to get out of prison. It's ridiculous that he's in prison or even got convicted to start with. Let me know if I missed any. I didn't see any super chats come in after the break. If I missed any, let me know. Let me just check my buy me a coffee and stuff. I did get one super chat. Buy me a coffee, so we'll do that real quick, and then I'll tell you what's coming up next week. If you want to do a super chat right at the end, get it in now because we're almost done. We're waking them up. Hello, doggos. Do you want a cookie? Or maybe they don't want one. Thanks, Erica. Yeah, everybody go sign that. Hey, Zena, do you want a cookie? Do you shake? Leia? There's the other monster. Could you do a shake? Do a touch? There we go. All right. I don't know if the change.org petitions even do anything, but it doesn't hurt, right? We need justice for this guy. Whatever happened in this case was not justice. Not at all. Look at how good. Look at how good Xena looks right here. What a good girl. All right. So yeah, go to that free Daniel Holtzclaw change.org. Coming up, I'm hoping to get my voice back. We'll see, right? Coming up on the 21st, I'm going to do canine videos with Florida Jim. Florida Jim, who you may know from Hezekiah's chat. He was on Hezekiah's show last week, I believe it was. Anyway, he was saying that he helped train canine officers or not the dogs, which are also officers, I guess, right? So he's a dog trainer and he trains the canines, and he's going to come on and we're going to watch all of the dog videos. I would like you to, let me grab this link. I set up a Discord channel specifically for canine videos, just like I did for the small crimes when I did that show with Steven, I set up a Discord for the canine videos. Join my Discord, please. I can never, Discord's so confusing to me. How do I how do I invite people? Nope. Invite people. Copy. Okay, I'm going to put the link into the chat right now. The link I think is good for 3 days. So join my Discord right now. Do it now. And then there's different channels set up in there to share links with me. One of them I just set up is for canine videos that I'll need for next week. So if you have any good canine videos, put those in there in the next couple of days so I can get them queued up. Probably or hopefully better than I had stuff queued up this time. Also, there is a Overruled. Overruled is where I do deep dives into cases, like this episode right now is an Overruled episode. So if there's a story that you think needs a deep dive into it, let me know there in the Overruled channel. Crimeland Stories is those little short crimes that I cover with number 2 on Friday Night Crime or on my Crimeland episodes. Small Crimes is for anything to do with dwarfs, midgets, or little people. And Katie said SVU is we decided to separate out the child sex crimes and the sex crimes because some people need a warning because they've gone through stuff and they don't want to just see that. So we set up a separate channel for that. So I appreciate anybody who joins the Discord right now. Oh, Erica got it too. Thank you, Erica, for putting that in there. I appreciate that. We will see you all next week on the... Oh, I'm going to tell you what we have coming up in May, too. I already have May all planned out. The 5th of May, Kfar will be on the channel with me. Once again, he was here for another case about 6 months ago. He's coming back to talk about a gentleman named Chase Allen who was gunned down by police. He pulled a gun on police, but whatever. We'll go over that one with him. Friday Night Crime next month is scheduled for the 10th and game night on the 11th. North Georgia Audits, Shane will be back with me on the 12th of May. And then on the 19th, we may or may not have an episode, but I'm going to be out of town on the 19th of May. We might do a road stream. Remember when I went to Florida with Steven and we did that road stream? We'll probably do that on the 19th. Anyway, coming up next week, the 21st, Canines with Florida Jim. We will see you then. Thank you all very much for coming, and we will see you next time. Oh, I'm going to try to reschedule the game night for some night coming up. I don't know when, but we're going to wait till my voice is fully healed because that one takes a lot of talking on my behalf. So once my voice is completely healed, we will get a game night in here this month sometime. Thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you very much for supporting my channel, and thank you for any super chats that came in. Erica, Ron, Dub, anybody else might be wrong. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. You have no idea how much I appreciate you guys. We will see you next time.
I can't understand what you're saying. We're late stage in the catacombs. Shuffling a single card today. Broken table trying to play some ping pong. It's not subtle when we celebrate a magazine with the pages torn. My body cracks, knees buckling. I got a bad case of brain fog. Said I got a bad case of brain fog. So I'ma take my butt home. So I'ma take my butt home. word carrier.